Welcome to our deep dive
Oh, worries.
today. We're going to be talking about mindset.
Awesome.
And specifically, we're going to be taking a closer look at Carol Dweck's book, Mindset, The New Psychology of Success.
Great book.
It is. And I think, a lot of our listeners are here today because they're interested in this idea of mindset.
Yeah.
How does it impact, our achievements, our relationships, the way we grow as individuals?
Yeah, and it's fascinating how Dweck doesn't just, tell us about fixed and growth mindsets, but she really kind of shows us how they play out in real life in these situations.
Yeah, absolutely. So for those of you who maybe haven't had a chance to read the book yet,
Right.
can you just give us the quick and dirty, what are the core differences between these two mindsets?
Yeah. So imagine looking at a beautiful old tree, right?
Okay.
Someone with a fixed mindset sees only what's there in this moment.
Okay.
The size of the trunk, the spread of the branches.
Got it.
But someone with a growth mindset, they see the potential. They see the years it took to grow.
Right.
The storms it weathered, and
Yeah.
how much taller and stronger that tree can become.
So it's not just about what you're capable of now, but what you believe you could become.
Exactly.
Mhm.
And this affects everything.
Mhm.
How we face challenges,
Mhm.
how we learn from mistakes,
Right.
even how we react to feedback.
Yeah.
Someone with a fixed mindset might be devastated by criticism,
Oh, for sure.
whereas someone with a growth mindset sees it as a roadmap for improvement.
That makes a lot of sense. And Dweck uses some really powerful examples in the book to illustrate this point.
Yes.
And one that really stuck with me was the story of Lee Iacocca,
Oh, yeah.
the CEO of Chrysler.
Yeah. Iacocca, his early success at Ford really fueled a fixed mindset. When he took over Chrysler, he initially thrived, but then, instead of adapting to a changing market, he kind of got stuck in this loop of these short-term wins.
I'm guessing it didn't end very well.
Not pretty.
Mm-hmm.
While Japanese automakers were innovating and revolutionizing car design, Iacocca kept rehashing old models,
Wow.
prioritizing short-term profits over long-term vision, and ultimately, it contributed to Chrysler's decline.
It's almost like his success became his biggest obstacle because it just solidified that fixed mindset.
Yeah, it's a cautionary tale, isn't it?
Yeah.
That even brilliant minds can fall into this trap of believing that talent alone is enough.
Yeah.
Now, contrast that with Darwin Smith, the CEO of Kimberly-Clark.
Yeah, I remember him. He took over the company when it was really struggling, right?
He did, and instead of playing it safe, he focused on continuous improvement.
Mm.
I love this quote from him. He said, "I never stopped trying to be qualified for the job."
Hmm.
He wasn't afraid to challenge the status quo,
Yeah.
even selling off their core business to invest in what he believed would be a stronger future for the company.
That must have taken a lot of courage, especially when, he was probably facing a lot of criticism and pushback from people.
Absolutely. But that's the growth mindset in action.
Mhm.
That willingness to embrace discomfort,
Yeah.
to learn and to constantly evolve. It's not about knowing all the answers.
Right.
It's about being open to finding them.
This really makes me think about the impact of mindset in parenting and education.
Yes.
We've all heard the phrase, oh, you're so smart,
Mhm.
but Dweck actually argues that this kind of praise can be really harmful.
What's fascinating here is that, praising intelligence can actually lead to a fear of failure.
Yeah.
Children might start avoiding challenges
Right.
because they're so terrified of losing that smart label.
So you're setting them up for a fixed mindset then,
Exactly.
where their worth is tied to this fixed ability.
Yes, and Dweck provides this great example of Elizabeth,
Okay.
this young gymnast who's nervous about her first competition.
Okay.
And instead of offering empty reassurance, her father, honestly told her, "You haven't really earned it yet. There are girls who've worked a lot harder than you."
Wow, that's a pretty bold approach.
But it's about fostering a growth mindset.
Yeah.
Instead of shielding her from reality, he emphasized the importance of effort and dedication and continuous improvement.
I'm curious, how does she react to that?
She took his words to heart, and she focused on improving her skills rather than just fixating on winning.
Mm-hmm.
It's a reminder that sometimes the most loving thing we can do is encourage growth,
Yeah.
even if it means facing discomfort.
Dweck also talks about these really incredible educators
Yes.
who champion this growth mindset in their classrooms.
Yeah.
And Marva Collins, for example, who founded a school for underprivileged children in Chicago.
Collins had incredibly high expectations for her students.
Hmm.
Imagine 4-year-olds reading sentences like, "See the physician" by Christmas
Wow.
and reciting Shakespeare by second grade.
That sounds almost impossible. How did she achieve those kinds of results?
She believed in their potential, even when others didn't. She fostered a culture of effort and perseverance. She would always remind her students, there is no magic here. Mrs. Collins is no miracle worker. I do not walk on water. I do not part the sea. I just love children and work harder than a lot of people, and so will you.
It's so inspiring to see how a teacher's belief in a child's ability to grow can have such a profound impact.
Yeah, it's about creating an environment where mistakes are seen as learning opportunities
Yeah.
and challenges are embraced as a path to growth.
Another educator that Dweck highlights is Rafe Esquith,
Yes.
known for his no shortcuts approach.
Esquith believed in teaching his students the value of hard work and dedication,
Yeah.
and his classroom was often buzzing with activity, before and after school,
Wow.
even during vacations.
That's dedication.
He instilled in them a love for learning and this deep understanding that true mastery comes from effort and perseverance.
So it's about shifting the focus from innate talent to this process of learning and growth.
Exactly. It's about celebrating the journey,
Yeah.
the struggles, the triumphs along the way.
Now, this makes me wonder how these mindsets play out in the business world,
Yeah.
especially when it comes to leadership.
That's a great question, and one that Dweck really explores in depth. Imagine a leader with a fixed mindset at the helm of a company.
Okay.
What kind of impact do you think that would have?
Well, I imagine it probably wouldn't be a recipe for innovation and growth.
You're right, a fixed mindset leader might be afraid to take risks
Yeah.
or try new things for fear of failure.
Uh-huh.
They might even surround themselves with yes men
Right.
who just validate their ideas instead of challenging them.
It sounds like a recipe for stagnation.
It often is.
Yeah.
A company with a fixed mindset culture might resist change,
Yeah.
cling to outdated ideas, and ultimately fail to adapt to a changing market. Remember Lee Iacocca and Chrysler?
Oh, yeah. That's a prime example of how a fixed mindset at the leadership level can really lead to a company's downfall.
Now contrast that with a leader who embodies a growth mindset.
Okay.
What kind of environment do you think they would create?
Well, if we think back to Darwin Smith and his approach at Kimberly-Clark,
Right.
I'm thinking a growth mindset leader would probably foster a culture of learning, collaboration, and innovation.
Exactly. They wouldn't be afraid to take calculated risks,
Yeah.
to learn from mistakes, and to constantly seek ways to improve. They'd be open to feedback, even if it's critical,
Right.
and they'd encourage their team members to challenge the status quo.
Sounds like a much more dynamic and engaging work environment.
It often is. And Dweck provides a great example of this with Lou Gerstner,
Oh, yeah.
the CEO who took over IBM when it was on the brink of collapse in the early 1990s.
Yeah, I remember that. Wasn't that a pretty dramatic turnaround?
One of the most impressive corporate turnarounds in history.
Wow.
Gerstner came in with a growth mindset and completely transformed IBM's culture.
How did he do that? What did he do differently?
He understood that IBM needed to adapt to the changing times,
Right.
and that meant shifting away from its culture of arrogance and elitism.
Wow.
He actively encouraged teamwork, customer focus, and a willingness to embrace new ideas.
Mm-hmm.
He challenged the company's long-held beliefs and fostered a culture of continuous learning and improvement.
It's incredible to see how a shift in mindset at the leadership level can have such a ripple effect throughout an entire organization.
It's a powerful testament to the transformative power of a growth mindset.
Yeah.
And it's not just anecdotal evidence. Dweck actually cites research showing that managers with a growth mindset make better decisions, are more innovative, and create more positive and productive work environments.
That makes a lot of sense. Now, this brings up an important question.
Yeah.
I'm sure some of our listeners are thinking, well, I don't have a growth mindset. Am I just stuck? What does Dweck say about that?
That's where it gets really interesting. Dweck argues that mindset isn't fixed.
Oh, okay.
You can actually change it.
So it's not like you're doomed to be stuck in a fixed mindset forever.
Not at all. You have the power to choose how you think about yourself and your abilities.
Okay.
And there are specific strategies that you can use to cultivate a growth mindset.
All right. I'm all ears. Tell me more. So how do we actually make that shift? How do we go from thinking, I'm not good at this, to embracing challenges and seeing setbacks as opportunities?
Well, it starts with awareness.
Yeah.
Becoming aware of those fixed mindset thoughts that pop up, those
Right.
I'm not talented enough or I'll never be as good as
Yeah.
kind of thoughts.
So it's like catching yourself in the act of self-sabotage.
Exactly. Once you're aware of those thoughts, you can start challenging them.
Yeah.
Ask yourself, is this really true?
Wow.
Or is this just my fixed mindset talking?
It's like having an inner dialogue with your own limiting beliefs.
It is. And then you can start replacing those fixed mindset thoughts with more growth-oriented ones.
Okay.
Instead of saying, I can't do this,
Yeah.
try saying, I haven't figured this out yet, but I'm going to keep trying.
So it's about shifting from a language of limitation to a language of possibility.
Precisely.
Yeah.
And remember, changing your mindset is a journey, not a destination.
Right.
There will be times when you fall back into old patterns of thinking, but the key is to be patient with yourself, to keep practicing, and to celebrate even the smallest victories along the way.
Dweck also talks about the importance of focusing on the process of learning and growth, rather than just the outcome.
Yes.
Can you elaborate on that a little bit?
Imagine two musicians preparing for a big audition.
Okay.
One is completely fixated on winning, obsessing over what the judges will think, and terrified of making a mistake.
Okay.
The other is focused on enjoying the process of practicing, refining their technique, and expressing themselves through their music.
I'm already sensing who's going to have a more positive experience.
Exactly. The musician who's focused on the process is more likely to stay motivated,
Right.
to enjoy the journey, and to perform at their best. The one who's fixated on the outcome,
Yeah.
they're setting themselves up for anxiety, disappointment, and possibly even burnout.
It's a great reminder that sometimes the joy is in the journey, not just the destination.
It is. And it applies to so many areas of life,
Yeah.
whether you're learning a new skill, starting a business, or building a relationship.
Right.
Focusing on the process of growth and learning can make the experience so much more rewarding.
Dweck also emphasizes the importance of seeking challenges and embracing feedback as opportunities for growth.
Yes.
This seems counterintuitive to a lot of people.
It does, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Our natural instinct is to avoid discomfort,
Right.
to stick with what we're good at, and to shy away from criticism.
But you're saying that that's actually holding us back.
It can be.
Mm-hmm.
When we avoid challenges, we're essentially telling ourselves, I'm not capable of more.
Yeah.
When we reject feedback, we're missing out on valuable opportunities to learn and improve.
So it's about pushing ourselves beyond our comfort zones and seeing those uncomfortable moments as a chance to grow.
Exactly. Think about someone learning to ride a bike.
Okay.
They're going to be fall, they're going to get scraped knees.
Right.
But each time they get back up, they're learning, they're improving, they're getting closer to that feeling of freedom and mastery.
That's a great analogy. It's about seeing those falls not as failures, but as stepping stones. Precisely. And the same applies to learning any new skill.
Yeah.
Whether it's writing, coding, public speaking, or even just navigating difficult conversations. The more we embrace those challenges, the more we grow.
Okay, so we're starting to see the power of a growth mindset in theory.
Right.
But I think our listeners are probably eager to hear, how this all plays out in real-life situations.
Yes.
What are some concrete examples of how these mindsets really shape our experiences?
Let's say you're offered a promotion at work,
Okay,
but it means relocating to a new city.
okay.
How do you think someone with a fixed mindset might approach this situation?
I'm imagining a lot of fear and hesitation. They might worry about failing in the new role
Yes.
or not being able to adjust to a new environment.
You're exactly right. They might even pass up the opportunity altogether just to avoid the risk of looking or feeling incompetent.
So they'd be prioritizing comfort and security over growth and potential.
Exactly. Now, how do you think someone with a growth mindset would react to that same opportunity? I think they'd be excited by the challenge.
Yes.
They'd see it as a chance to learn new skills, expand their network, and broaden their horizons.
Precisely. They wouldn't be naive about the challenges,
Right.
but they'd see them as opportunities for growth. They might even say, I've never lived in the new city before. This is going to be an adventure.
So it's about embracing the unknown and seeing the potential for growth in every experience?
It is. Now let's kind of shift gears and think about how mindsets play out in social situations.
Okay.
Remember George,
Oh, yes.
the guy who was terrified of social rejection?
Oh, yes, George. He was so focused on being judged that he couldn't even relax and enjoy himself in social settings.
His fixed mindset was telling him, you're awkward, you're not interesting, people are going to judge you.
Right.
And that belief was paralyzing him. He even messed up this perfectly good interaction with a woman he was interested in
Oh, yeah?
because he was so consumed by his fear of rejection.
I remember that. It was so painful to read. What happened?
He was talking to this woman, Jean, and she was genuinely trying to get to know him.
Mm-hmm.
But he was so self-conscious and awkward that he ended up cutting the conversation short and practically running away.
It's like he was sabotaging himself before she even had a chance to form an opinion.
Exactly. But here's the thing.
Okay.
His therapist helped him see that he didn't have to be defined by other people's judgments.
Okay.
He encouraged him to focus on building a connection with Jean
Yeah.
rather than obsessing over how she might be evaluating him.
So it was about shifting his focus from being judged to actually building a relationship.
Exactly. And you know what? It worked.
Oh, really?
He ended up approaching Jean, apologizing for his awkward behavior,
Wow.
and asking her to lunch.
Yeah.
And she said yes.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
It just shows that even the most socially anxious people can really overcome their fears by adopting a growth mindset and focusing on connection rather than judgment.
It's a reminder that we don't have to be prisoners of our own limiting beliefs.
Yeah.
We have the power to choose how we think, how we feel, and how we act.
This is so inspiring. But what about those times when we face major setbacks,
Yeah.
like losing a job or going through a really painful breakup?
Right.
Those kinds of experiences can really shake our confidence and make us question our worth.
They can. And it's in those moments that our mindset can make all the difference.
Yeah.
Someone with a fixed mindset might see a setback as a confirmation of their inadequacy.
Yeah.
They might say, see, I knew I wasn't good enough, or I'm a failure.
And those kinds of thoughts can be so debilitating.
They can be. But someone with a growth mindset would approach that same setback with a different lens.
Okay.
They'd see it as an opportunity for learning and growth.
Mm-hmm.
They might ask themselves, what can I learn from this experience? Or how can I use this setback to become stronger and more resilient?
So it's about reframing those negative thoughts into opportunities for self-improvement.
Exactly.
Hmm.
And Dweck provides some incredible examples of people who faced immense challenges and used their growth mindsets to not only overcome adversity, but also achieve extraordinary things.
One that comes to mind is Laura Hillenbrand,
Oh, yes.
the author of Seabiscuit. Didn't she write that entire book while struggling with a chronic illness?
She did. She faced debilitating health challenges that made it incredibly difficult to write.
Right.
But she was determined to finish the book.
Wow.
She would write for a few minutes at a time whenever she had a burst of energy,
Uh-huh.
and slowly but surely she pieced the story together.
It's just a testament to the power of perseverance and this belief that you can achieve great things even when the odds are stacked against you.
It is, and it highlights the importance of setting small goals, celebrating small victories, and focusing on progress over perfection.
Another really inspiring example is Patricia Miranda, the Olympic wrestler.
Oh, yes.
She was told she was a joke when she first started wrestling.
Could you imagine being told that? Most people would probably just give up.
Right.
But Patricia had a growth mindset. Instead of letting that negative feedback crush her, she used it as fuel to prove herself.
Wow.
She trained harder, she sought out the best coaches, and she never gave up on her dream.
And she ended up winning a bronze medal at the Olympics.
She did.
Yeah.
A powerful reminder that our potential is not predetermined.
Yeah.
With effort, dedication, and a belief in our ability to grow, we can achieve incredible things.
These stories are so inspiring, but I think a lot of people are probably thinking, okay, this all sounds great in theory, but how do I actually change my mindset? Where do I even begin?
That's a great question,
Yeah.
and it's one that Dweck addresses in detail.
Okay.
The first step is to recognize that your mindset is not fixed.
Okay.
You can choose to adopt a growth mindset
Right.
and start seeing challenges as opportunities for learning and growth.
So it starts with a conscious decision to shift your perspective.
Exactly. Once you've made that decision, you can start implementing practical strategies to cultivate a growth mindset.
Okay.
One of the most effective techniques is to pay attention to your self-talk.
So catching yourself when you start thinking those negative or limiting thoughts.
Exactly. And instead of saying, I'm not good at this, try reframing it as, I'm still learning, or I can improve with practice.
So it's about replacing those self-defeating thoughts with more empowering ones.
You got it. Another powerful technique is to focus on the process of learning and improvement rather than just the outcome.
So instead of being fixated on getting a perfect score, it's about enjoying the journey of learning and developing new skills.
Precisely. Remember, growth comes from effort, practice, and perseverance.
This all makes so much sense. But how do you stay motivated when things get tough?
That's a great question. One of the best ways to stay motivated is to set realistic goals
Okay.
and break down large tasks into smaller, more manageable steps.
So instead of feeling overwhelmed by this huge project, you can focus on making progress one step at a time.
Exactly. Celebrating small victories along the way can also boost your motivation
Uh-huh.
and help you stay on track.
These are all great tips. But what about those moments when you feel like giving up? How do you push through those feelings of frustration or discouragement?
It's important to remember that setbacks are a natural part of the learning process.
Right.
Everyone experiences them. The key is to view those setbacks as opportunities to learn and adjust your approach.
So instead of seeing a failure as a sign that you're not good enough, you can use it as feedback to improve your strategy.
You're getting it. It's about shifting your mindset from, I can't do this, to how can I do this better next time?
This has been an incredible journey so far. I'm feeling really inspired to embrace a growth mindset in all areas of my life.
I'm glad to hear that.
But I'm curious about something. Dweck also talks about the importance of fostering a growth mindset in others, right?
She does.
Yeah.
And it's a crucial aspect of creating a more positive and growth-oriented environment,
Yeah.
whether it's in your family classroom or workplace.
So how do you go about doing that? It's not like you can just tell someone, hey, you need to have a growth mindset.
You're right. It's more about modeling a growth mindset in your own actions and interactions.
Okay.
Remember that children especially learn by observing the adults around them.
So if you're constantly praising them for their intelligence,
Right.
they're going to pick up on that fixed mindset message.
Exactly. Instead, focus on praising their effort strategies and perseverance.
It's about emphasizing the process of learning and growth rather than just the end result.
You got it. And it's not just about praise.
Right.
It's also about how you respond to mistakes.
So instead of getting angry or critical when a child makes a mistake, you can help them see it as an opportunity to learn and improve.
Precisely. Dweck provides some great examples of how parents and educators can use a growth mindset approach to discipline and guide children.
I'm eager to hear more about that.
Well, let's take a look at a few specific examples. So we were talking about fostering a growth mindset in others, especially with kids. Let's dive into some of those examples.
Yeah, let's get into those examples. You mentioned Elizabeth the gymnast.
Oh, right, Elizabeth.
Yeah.
So, picture this. She falls during her floor routine at the competition.
Okay, yeah.
A parent with a fixed mindset might rush to comfort her, saying things like, oh, honey, you're still the best in my eye.
Right.
Or, don't worry, it wasn't your fault.
I see what you're getting at. It's well-intentioned, obviously, but it kind of reinforces the idea that her worth is tied to her performance.
Exactly. It's subtly sending the message that, making mistakes is something to be ashamed of.
Right.
Now, a parent with a growth mindset
Okay.
might say something like, I know you're disappointed,
Yeah.
but let's figure out what you can learn from this so you can come back even stronger next time.
It's about shifting that focus,
Yeah.
from the outcome to the process of learning and improving.
Precisely. They might even encourage Elizabeth to watch videos of other gymnasts,
Yeah.
analyze her technique with her coach, and come up with a plan for practicing those specific skills.
Yeah.
It's about turning that setback into a springboard for growth.
That's a great way to look at it.
Yeah.
This reminds me of another scenario that Dweck talks about,
Oh, yeah.
where a child comes home upset about a bad grade on a test,
A fixed mindset parent might react with anger or disappointment.
even saying things like, why didn't you study harder? Or you're not living up to your potential.
Right.
This kind of response can be so damaging, to a child's self-esteem.
Yeah, it's like you're judging them for this one single result
Yeah.
instead of, supporting them in their learning journey.
Exactly. A growth mindset parent would acknowledge their child's feelings
Okay.
and then try to understand, what went wrong.
Right.
They might say, I know you're disappointed, but let's figure out what happened so you can learn from it.
Right.
They might, help their child break down the material, create a study plan, or even talk to the teacher about getting extra help.
So it's about fostering a sense of agency
Yeah.
and empowering that child to really take ownership of their learning.
Exactly. It's about creating that safe space where mistakes are seen as learning opportunities, not personal failures.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's not just about what we say, but it's also about how we model a growth mindset, in our own lives.
Yes.
Do we shy away from challenges or do we kind of embrace them?
Yeah.
Do we get defensive when we receive feedback or do we see it as a chance to learn and grow?
Our actions speak louder than words, especially when it comes to influencing the mindsets of those around us.
Absolutely. Now, Dweck also talks about the impact of mindset on education more broadly.
Yes.
We've talked about these inspiring teachers like Marva Collins and Rafe Esquith.
Right.
But there's another key figure in this movement,
Yeah.
Carol Dweck herself.
Carol Dweck herself.
I didn't realize that she was directly involved in educational programs.
Oh, she is. She created something called the Brainology program,
Yeah.
which actually teaches middle school students about the science of brain plasticity.
Now that sounds fascinating. Tell me more.
It's all about helping kids understand that their brains are not fixed.
Right.
They're actually capable of changing and growing throughout life.
So instead of thinking, I'm not good at math, They can start to understand that with effort and practice, they can actually get better. That's the idea. The program uses engaging visuals and activities to show how learning literally changes the physical structure of our brains.
Wow, that's a powerful message for kids to hear.
It is. And the results have been remarkable. Students who participated in the Brainology program
Okay.
showed significant improvements in their motivation, engagement, and academic performance.
It sounds like they're not just learning math or science, they're actually learning how to learn.
Exactly.
Uh-huh.
And that's a skill that will benefit them throughout their life.
This deep dive has been so eye-opening, you know.
Go
I feel like I'm seeing the world through a whole new lens.
If there's one thing I hope you take away from our conversation today, it's this.
Okay.
Your mindset is a powerful tool.
Yeah.
It can shape your experiences, your relationships, and your potential for growth.
It's not about, being positive all the time.
Right.
But it's about fundamentally believing in your ability to learn, to grow, and to overcome challenges.
Beautifully said. A growth mindset is not a destination, it's a journey. It's about embracing challenges,
Yeah.
learning from mistakes, and constantly striving to improve.
So the next time you find yourself facing a difficult situation, ask yourself,
Yeah.
what would a growth mindset do?
And remember, you have the power to choose your mindset, to create a more positive and growth-oriented life for yourself, and to inspire those around you.
Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive into the world of mindset. We hope you've gained some valuable insights that you can apply to your own life.
It's been a pleasure exploring this topic with you.
Until next time, keep learning, keep growing, and keep embracing the power of a growth mindset.